Let me tell you something. Building an empire is not easy. People think it just happens, that success just falls into your lap. It doesn't. It takes vision, it takes courage, it takes discipline, it takes risk, and it takes persistence. And that's exactly how I built everything. That's how you build anything big. Most people never do it. They settle for small, they settle for safe. That's why they never succeed. But if you want to rise, if you want to win, if you want to build your own empire, you need to learn these lessons. Everything begins with vision. Everything. If you don't see it, you can't build it. If you don't believe it before it exists, it will never exist. That's the truth. Most people never build anything big because they can't see anything big. They're trapped in small thinking. They wake up, go to work, come home, watch television, complain about life, and that's all they see for themselves. Small picture, small vision, small results. That's the 98%. The 2%, they see differently. They look at the same world, but they don't see what is. They see what could be. They see opportunity where others see nothing. They see possibility where others see risk. They see towers where others see empty land. That's vision. And without it, you cannot build an empire. When I looked at Manhattan years ago, I didn't just see buildings. I saw possibilities. I saw towers that could define a skyline. I saw opportunities where others only saw problems. People said, it's too expensive, it's too risky, it can't be done. But I saw it. I believed it before it was real. That's vision, and that's why it happened. Here's what you need to understand. Vision is not about what's in front of you right now. Vision is about what you believe can exist in the future. Anybody can see what is. That doesn't take intelligence. That doesn't take courage. What makes winners different is that they see what doesn't exist yet. They see the invisible and make it visible. They see the future before the world catches up. The 98% laugh at visionaries. They say, that's impossible, that's crazy, it'll never work. And then years later, when it's done, when it's successful, when it's real, those same people say, I knew it all along. But the truth is they didn't. They couldn't see it. Only the 2% did. Only the visionaries could. Vision gives you direction. It gives you purpose. It tells you where you're going when nobody else understands. Without vision, you wander. Without vision, you settle for average. Without vision, you follow the crowd. But with vision, you lead. With vision, you build. With vision, you create something the world has never seen before. Think of every empire in history, every great business, every breakthrough invention. It all started with vision. Someone saw what others couldn't. Someone believed in something that didn't exist yet. And because they held that vision, they brought it into reality. That's the power of vision. But here's the problem. Most people kill their own vision. They talk themselves out of it before they even start. They say, I don't have the money, I don't have the connections, I don't have the education. They focus on what they lack instead of what they see. And by doing that, they destroy their own future. That's why they never succeed. The 2% don't do that. They protect their vision. They hold on to it. They feed it, they nurture it, they build around it. Even when people laugh, even when people doubt, even when it looks impossible, they keep the vision alive. And because of that, eventually, they make it real. Vision is like a seed. If you plant it, protect it, water it, it grows. But if you ignore it, if you starve it, if you let people trample it, it dies. That's why your vision has to be strong. You can't let other people's small thinking destroy it. You can't let their fear kill it. If you want to be in the 2%, you have to believe in your vision more than anyone else. And let me tell you something important. Vision is not just for business, it's for everything. Your health, your relationships, your life. If you don't have a vision of the life you want, you'll settle for the life you get, and it won't be much. But if you can see yourself stronger, healthier, wealthier, happier, and you hold that vision, you'll start making the choices that lead you there. The 98% go through life blind. They wake up every day with no bigger picture. They live paycheck to paycheck, problem to problem, distraction to distraction, and then they wonder why nothing changes. The 2% wake up every day with a vision in their mind. They see the life they want. They see the empire they're building. They see the success they're chasing. And because they see it, they move toward it every single day. So let me ask you, what's your vision? Do you see yourself building something big? Do you see yourself breaking out of the 98%? Or are you blind, just drifting, just settling, just existing, because your vision decides your future? And here's the good news. Vision is free. It doesn't cost anything to dream. It doesn't cost anything to imagine a bigger life. It doesn't cost anything to think big. But most people won't do it because they've been trained to think small. Don't make that mistake. Start building your vision today. Write it down, picture it, believe it, hold it in your mind until it becomes reality. That's the first step to building an empire. Not money, not connections, not luck. Vision. If you can see it, you can build it. If you can believe it, you can achieve it. That's how winners live. That's how the 2% think. That's why they succeed when the 98% don't. So never forget, everything begins with vision. Protect it, nurture it, believe in it, and then go out and build it. That's how you create your empire. That's how you win. Let me tell you the truth. You cannot build an empire without risk. You cannot win big playing it safe. Safety doesn't create greatness. Comfort never creates wealth. If you want to rise above the 98%, if you want to join the 2%, you must understand risk. You must be willing to take it, to embrace it, to live with it. Because the truth is, risk is where the rewards are. The 98% hate risk. They run from it. They say, it's too dangerous, it's too uncertain. What if I fail? And because that's how they think, they never try, they never move, they never build anything beyond average. They live their entire lives stuck in the middle, playing small, playing safe. And then they wonder why nothing changes. The 2%, they're different. They understand that risk is the price of success. They know that everything great carries risk. Starting a business, making an investment, chasing a dream, it all comes with uncertainty. And they don't run from it. They don't hide from it. They take it head on. Because they know the bigger the risk, the bigger the reward. Think about it. Every fortune ever built came from risk. Every tower, every empire, every breakthrough. It all started with someone saying, I'm going to take the chance. If you wait for guarantees, you'll be waiting forever. If you wait for certainty, you'll never move. And if you never move, you never win. That's why the 98% fail. I've lived this truth my entire life. Every big project I ever touched was a risk. People told me, it's too big, it's too expensive, it's too dangerous. But I didn't listen. I saw the opportunity. I took the shot. I placed the bet. And yes, sometimes I failed. Sometimes it didn't work. But more often it did. And when it did, the wins were massive. The rewards were huge. Without risk, there would have been no empire. But here's something important. Risk does not mean recklessness. Risk is not about being careless. The 98% think risk takers are gamblers. They think it's about throwing everything away. Wrong. The 2% take calculated risks. They study, they prepare, they learn the game, and then they step in knowing there's no guarantee. That's the difference. Not careless, but courageous. Not foolish, but bold. Most people spend their lives trying to avoid failure. They think that if they never take risks, they'll never fail. But the reality is, avoiding risk is the biggest failure of all. If you don't take risks, you fail by default. You fail by staying small. You fail by never trying. At least when you risk, you give yourself a chance to win. Without risk, you guarantee nothing changes. Let me give you an example. In business, the market goes up, the market goes down. Safe players wait. They hesitate. They never move until it's too late. The bold players step in when others are running away. They take the risk. And because they do, they come out on top. That's how winners think. And here's another truth. Risk builds strength. Every time you step into risk, you build courage. You train yourself to handle uncertainty. You learn to trust yourself. And that confidence carries you forward. Even if you fail, the lesson makes you stronger. The next time, you risk again, and you win bigger. That's how you grow. That's how you build an empire. The 98% don't understand this. They think failure is the end. They think one setback means stop. But the 2% know failure is feedback. Every failed risk teaches you. Every mistake sharpens you. Every loss prepares you for the win. Without risk, you never grow. Without risk, you never win. And let me tell you something people forget. Playing it safe is not safe. It's the most dangerous thing you can do. Safe thinking produces safe results. And safe results are nothing. They are mediocrity. They are regret. People spend their whole lives avoiding risk. And then at the end, they regret every chance they didn't take. They regret the empire they never built. They regret the life they could have lived. That's the tragedy of the 98%. The 2%, they live differently. They take risks. They embrace uncertainty. They say yes when everyone else says no. And because of that, they win. They create the jobs. They build the companies. They write the history. The 98% end up working for them. That's the difference. So what about you? Are you living safe or are you living bold? Are you hiding or are you risking? Are you choosing comfort or are you choosing greatness? Because you cannot have both. You can't live safe and succeed. You can't avoid risk and win big. You have to choose. The empire doesn't build itself. The fortune doesn't build itself. The life you want doesn't build itself. You build it, and you build it by taking risks, by stepping into uncertainty, by saying, yes, I'll take the chance, I'll face the fear, I'll go for it. That's the truth. That's the difference between the 98% and the 2%. So remember this, without risk, there is no reward. Without risk, there is no empire. Without risk, there is no success. If you want to join the winners, if you want to build something big, you must embrace risk. Don't fear it. Don't run from it. Face it, take it, own it. Because in the end, the greatest risk of all is not taking any. Everybody loves the idea of success. Everybody loves the idea of being rich, being powerful, living big. But here's the truth that nobody wants to admit. Very few people are willing to do what it takes. And the reason most people don't succeed, the reason 98% of people never build anything big, is simple. They don't have discipline. The 98% rely on feelings. They say, I'll work when I feel like it. I'll push when I'm motivated. I'll show up when I'm inspired. And because feelings come and go, so does their effort. They start, they stop, they drift. They can't stay consistent. That's why they never finish. That's why they never win. The 2% are different. They don't rely on feelings, they rely on discipline. They do the work whether they feel like it or not. They show up when they're tired, when they're bored, when it's raining, when it's inconvenient. They keep their word to themselves. They stay consistent, and that's why they win. Discipline is not glamorous. Discipline is not fun. Discipline is boring. It's repetitive. It's hard. It's waking up early when you want to sleep in. It's putting in the hours when nobody is watching. It's choosing the grind over the comfort. That's what separates the winners from the losers. Think about it. Anybody can get excited for a day. Anybody can start strong for a week. But empire building isn't about days or weeks. It's about years. It's about showing up over and over again, long after the excitement is gone. That's what the 2% do. They keep going long after everyone else has quit. That's why they succeed. I'll tell you from my own experience. There were deals that took years to complete, projects that dragged on forever, court battles, negotiations, delays, critics attacking every step. Most people would have walked away. Most people would have said, it's too hard, it's taking too long. But I didn't. I stayed in the fight. I kept showing up day after day, year after year. And that persistence, that discipline is what turned those projects into victories. Without it, there would be no towers, no empire. Here's what you need to understand. Discipline creates momentum. At first, it feels like nothing is happening. You're putting in the work, and the results are small. That's where most people quit. But if you stay disciplined, if you keep stacking the days, the weeks, the months, suddenly you look up and you've built something huge. That's how empires are built. Not in one day, not in 1 week, but day after day, year after year, through discipline. The 98% want quick results. They want shortcuts. They want success without sacrifice. And when they don't get it fast, they quit. That's why they never succeed. The 2% understand that success takes time. They know that greatness is built slowly. They're patient, they're disciplined, and because they get everything the 98% wanted but quit too soon to achieve. Discipline is also about self-control. The 98% can't control themselves. They waste time, they waste money, they waste energy. They're distracted by entertainment, by gossip, by excuses. They can't say no to comfort. They can't say no to temptation. And every distraction pulls them further from success. The 2% master themselves. They control their time. They control their focus. They control their habits. They sacrifice what they want now for what they want most. They say no to comfort so they can say yes to greatness. And that self-control, that discipline, is why they rise. Let me tell you something powerful. Discipline creates freedom. People think it's the opposite. They think discipline is restriction, limitation, prison. Wrong. Undisciplined people are the ones trapped. They're trapped by their laziness, their excuses, their distractions. They can't choose success because they've lost control of themselves. But disciplined people, they're free. They own their time, they own their habits, they own their life, and because of that, they build empires. I've met many talented people, brilliant, creative, gifted, and most of them failed. Why? No discipline. They couldn't stick with anything long enough to win. They quit too soon, they got distracted, they lost focus, and all that talent went to waste. On the other hand, I've met average people, not the smartest, not the most gifted, but disciplined. And because they showed up every day, because they kept working when others quit, they built fortunes. That's the power of discipline. So ask yourself, are you disciplined? Do you show up every day or only when you feel like it? Do you keep promises to yourself or do you break them when it's hard? Do you push through pain or do you quit when it's uncomfortable? Be honest, because your discipline decides your future. And here's the good news. Discipline can be built. It's like a muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it gets. Start small, keep one promise to yourself. Wake up when you said you would. Finish the task you started. Push a little harder than yesterday. Do it again tomorrow. Over time, you'll get stronger, tougher, more focused. And soon, discipline won't be something you do. It will be who you are. That's how you join the 2%. That's how you separate yourself from the 98%. That's how you build your empire, with discipline. Not one day, not 1 week, but every day, every week, every year. So remember this, talent is nothing without discipline. Ideas are nothing without discipline. Vision is nothing without discipline. Discipline is the bridge between where you are and where you want to be. And if you cross it every day, no matter how hard, no matter how boring, no matter how painful, you will get there. Most people won't. Most people will quit. Most people will stay comfortable. That's why they never succeed. But if you choose discipline, if you choose consistency, if you choose persistence, success will have no choice but to chase you. That's the truth. That's the secret. That's the power of discipline. Business is about deals. Life is about deals. Everything in one way or another is a negotiation. You're always negotiating for your time, for your money, for your opportunities, for your future. And the truth is this, most people don't know how to negotiate. Most people go into life settling, taking whatever is offered, never asking for more, never demanding their worth. That's why they stay small. That's why they stay average. That's why 98% never succeed. The 2%, they think differently. They know life is a negotiation and they treat it that way. They understand that nothing great is just handed to you. You have to fight for it. You have to push for it. You have to ask for it. And sometimes you have to demand it. And that mindset changes everything. When I go into a negotiation, I never go in to lose. Never. I don't sit at the table hoping for scraps, hoping somebody gives me a fair shake. I go in to win. That doesn't mean I win every time. Nobody does. But it means I set the tone. I put myself in the position of power. I let the other side know I'm not here to play small, and that makes all the difference. Most people go into negotiations already beaten. They walk in apologizing for being there. They talk themselves down. They convince themselves to accept less before the conversation even starts. And that's why they always lose. They're afraid of conflict. They're afraid of rejection. They're afraid of being told no. And because they're afraid, they settle. The 2% embrace negotiation. They understand it's not about conflict, it's about clarity. It's not about fighting, it's about value. They walk in knowing their worth, knowing what they bring, and they don't back down. They know how to stand firm, how to say no, how to push until they get what they deserve. That's why they win. I've been in some of the toughest negotiations you can imagine. Massive deals, huge projects, billions of dollars on the line. And every time I went in prepared to win. I knew my value, I knew my leverage, I knew what I wanted, and I was willing to walk away if I didn't get it. That's a critical part of negotiation, the willingness to walk away. Most people can't do it. They're too desperate, too afraid, too eager to please. They cling to whatever they're offered. Winners don't. Winners know that walking away is sometimes the strongest move you can make. Here's another truth about negotiation. Silence is powerful. Most people can't handle silence. They rush to fill the space with concessions, with apologies, with compromises. Winners don't. Winners sit in the silence. Winners let the other side sweat. Winners let the other side reveal their position first. And because of that, they gain the upper hand. Negotiation is also about preparation. You don't walk in blind. You study, you learn. You know the facts, the numbers, the situation. You know what the other side wants, what they fear, what they're hiding. The more prepared you are, the stronger you are. And the stronger you are, the better deal you get. But here's the biggest thing about negotiation. It's not just about deals in business. It's about your entire life. Every time you accept less than you're worth, you've negotiated against yourself. Every time you let people waste your time, you've lost a negotiation. Every time you say yes when you should have said no, you've given up power. That's what the 98% do. They negotiate themselves into weakness. The 2% negotiate their life differently. They value their time, their energy, their worth. They don't give it away cheap. They don't let people take advantage. They don't let opportunities slip by without asking for more. And that's why they build empires. So ask yourself, how do you negotiate? Do you settle or do you push? Do you walk into life apologizing or do you walk in with confidence? Do you accept whatever is handed to you or do you demand more? Because your answer to those questions will decide whether you stay with the 98% or rise into the 2%. And here's the good news. Negotiation is a skill. You can learn it. You can practice it. You can master it. Start small. Next time you're in a deal, even something simple, don't just accept the first offer. Ask for more. Push a little. Hold your ground. And you'll see what happens. You'll realize that people respect strength. They respect confidence. And once you learn that, you'll never go back. Remember this: the world doesn't give you what you deserve. The world gives you what you negotiate. If you negotiate like the 98%, you'll live average. If you negotiate like the 2%, you'll live extraordinary. That's the truth. That's the difference. That's why I built an empire, and that's how you can build yours. Let me tell you something very powerful. Success is not just about what you do. It's not just about your vision, your risk, your discipline, your deals. All of that matters, yes. But here's the hidden truth. Success is also about your environment, the people around you, the energy you allow into your circle, the voices you listen to every single day. And this, believe me, makes the difference between being in the 98% or being in the 2%. Most people don't realize how much their environment controls them. They think they're making their own decisions. They think they're independent. But look closer. Who are they spending time with? Negative friends, jealous coworkers, family members who doubt every idea, people who laugh at ambition, who mock success, who tell them to stay small, to be realistic. And guess what happens? That poison seeps in. That energy drags them down. They start thinking small. They start making excuses. They start living average. That's why 98% never rise above. The 2% understand this. They protect their environment. They are ruthless about who they allow into their inner circle. They don't waste time with complainers, with excuse makers, with people who are stuck. They surround themselves with winners, with builders, with believers, people who push them higher, not pull them lower. That's the difference. That's the power of environment. I've seen this over and over again. Somebody has potential, real talent, but their environment suffocates them. Their friends want to party, not build. Their coworkers gossip instead of grow. Their family tells them, don't take risks, don't dream too big, just stay safe. And slowly their fire dies. Not because they weren't capable, but because they let their environment control them. And I've seen the opposite too. People who didn't look special, didn't look extraordinary at first, but they got around winners. They got around people who demanded more, people who thought big, people who pushed them to rise. And suddenly everything changed. Their mindset grew, their actions grew, their results exploded. Why? Because environment lifted them. I'll tell you from my own life. When I was chasing big projects, I didn't let doubters in the room. I didn't let negativity sit at the table. If someone couldn't see the vision, they were out. Simple, because I knew one negative voice could poison the whole project. Doubt spreads fast, but so does belief. And I chose belief. I chose to surround myself with people who said, yes, it can be done. Yes, let's make it happen. That's how you build something big. But here's the problem. Most people don't have the courage to make those cuts. They cling to toxic friends, toxic family, toxic coworkers because they're comfortable. They say, I've known them for years, I can't let them go. And because of that, they stay stuck. They choose loyalty to losers over loyalty to their own future. And that's why they never succeed. The 2% think differently. They understand that if you want to fly, you can't stay tied to anchors. If you want to rise, you have to cut the ropes. You cannot carry other people's excuses and expect to win. You cannot spend time with quitters and expect to be a finisher. It doesn't work like that. So ask yourself right now, who's in your environment? Who are you listening to every day? Are they pushing you higher or are they pulling you lower? Are they feeding your vision or are they starving it? Do they get excited when you talk about success or do they roll their eyes? Because the answer to those questions is the answer to your future. And here's the truth. Winners don't want to be around losers. Big thinkers don't want to be around small thinkers. Successful people don't want to waste time with complainers. So if you want to attract winners into your life, you have to raise your own standard. You have to carry yourself like a winner, because like attracts like. If you act like the 98%, you'll only attract the 98%. If you act like the 2%, you'll start pulling the 2% into your circle. Sometimes the most powerful change you can make in your life is not in what you do, but in who you're around. Change your environment, and you change your destiny. Get around people who are doing more than you, thinking bigger than you, achieving more than you. It will stretch you. It will challenge you. It will pull you to rise. That's the secret the 98% never discover. So protect your environment. Be ruthless about it. Don't apologize for it. Say no to the doubters. Say no to the excuse makers. Say no to the people who drain your energy. And say yes to the winners. Yes to the believers. Yes to the builders who demand more from you. Because the truth is, your circle is your future. Most people never understand this. They think they can rise while staying in the wrong crowd. They can't. Nobody can. The 98% are dragged down by their environment, and that's where they stay. The 2% build an environment of success, and that's why they rise, that's why they win. So remember this, your environment is not just background. It's not just noise. It's the foundation. It's the fuel. It's the wind at your back, or it's the weight on your shoulders. And you get to choose. You can stay in an environment that keeps you small, or you can build one that pushes you to greatness. The choice is yours. Protect your environment. Build it wisely, and watch how fast your life changes. Everybody wants success without problems. Everybody says, I want it to be easy. I want it to be smooth. I want no obstacles. But let me tell you something very true that doesn't exist. Life is full of problems. Business is full of problems. Building anything great is full of problems. And here's the difference. The 98% see problems as reasons to quit. The 2% see problems as opportunities. That's why they win. The 98% hit a wall and stop. They say it's too hard, it's not fair, I can't do it. They complain, they blame, they make excuses. They treat problems as the end of the road, and once you see it as the end, that's exactly what it becomes. They give up, they settle, they fail. The 2%, completely different. They hit a wall and say, good, now I get to climb it, now I get to break it, now I get to prove myself. They see problems as the doorway to growth, to innovation, to breakthrough. They know that every problem hides an opportunity, and if you solve it, you move ahead of everybody else. That's the mindset of winners. I've faced massive problems in my life, huge setbacks, deals collapsing, projects failing, critics saying it's impossible. Most people would have walked away, but I never said that's the end. I said, where's the opportunity? What can we do differently? How do we turn this around? And every time the problem forced me to get sharper, to get tougher, to get smarter. And because of that, I came out ahead. Here's the truth. Problems are not obstacles. They're instructions. They're signals pointing you toward where you need to grow. Every time you face a problem, you're being handed a lesson, an opportunity to rise. Most people miss it because they're too busy complaining. The 98% cry about the storm. The 2% build ships that can sail through it. And then they own the ocean. Think about history. Every major breakthrough, inventions, businesses, empires came from solving a problem. Airplanes, electricity, technology, skyscrapers, they all came because someone faced a problem and refused to quit. Instead, they asked, how do we turn this into an opportunity? That's the secret of progress. That's the secret of success. And let me be very clear. The bigger the problem, the bigger the opportunity inside it. Small problems lead to small wins. Big problems lead to big wins. That's why the 98% avoid big problems. They're scared, and that's why they stay small. The 2% run toward big problems. They know if they solve them, the rewards are enormous. They know every big problem solved moves them 10 steps ahead of the crowd. Here's something else. Problems build toughness. Every time you push through, every time you overcome, you get stronger. The 98% never get stronger because they quit too soon. They break the moment it gets hard. The 2% keep pushing until they break through. And the very act of pushing through makes them unstoppable. I remember people saying to me, Trump, it's over. You're finished. And you know what? That's when I got sharper. That's when I doubled down. That's when I turned the so-called problems into my greatest opportunities. And that's what you have to do. Most people pray for no problems. Winners pray for bigger problems because they know the bigger the problem, the bigger the chance to rise. That's why the 2% keep winning. They're not afraid of the storm. They're not afraid of the fight. They welcome it because they know on the other side of it is growth, wealth, and success. So here's what you need to do. Stop calling them problems. Start calling them opportunities. Stop saying, why me? Start saying, try me. Stop treating every challenge as a curse and start seeing it as a chance to separate yourself from the 98%. Because here's the reality. Anybody can keep going when it's easy. Anybody can keep smiling when everything works. That doesn't make you special. What makes you special is when everything is against you and you keep moving. What makes you powerful is when the problem is huge and you say, I'm bigger. That's the 2% mindset. That's what builds empires. So the next time you face a problem, and you will, don't complain, don't cry, don't quit. Ask yourself, where's the opportunity here? How can I use this? How can I grow from this? And then go after it. Because if you do that, you'll be living like the 2%. You'll be turning obstacles into victories, setbacks into comebacks, and problems into opportunities. The 98% run from problems. The 2% run into them. And that's why one group stays small and the other builds empires. Now we come to the most important lesson of all. The one thing that separates the 98% who lose from the 2% who win. It's not talent. It's not education. It's not luck. It's persistence, the ability to keep going, the refusal to quit, the determination to stay in the fight until you win. That's the difference. That's the secret. That's the reason 2% succeed when 98% don't. Most people quit. That's the truth. They start strong, but the moment it gets tough, they stop. They say it's too hard, it's taking too long, it's not working. They quit when the critics laugh at them. They quit when success doesn't come fast enough. They quit when life knocks them down. And because they quit, they never see the breakthrough. They never see how close they were. They never see the success that was waiting just one step further. That's the tragedy of the 98%. The 2%, they don't quit, they fall, but they get up. They fail, but they try again. They lose, but they refuse to stay down. They keep going when it's hard, when it's painful, when it looks impossible. They keep going until they win. And because they never quit, they always find a way. That's why they succeed. I've seen it all. I've seen people with talent quit. I've seen people with money quit. I've seen people with education quit. And all that potential went to waste. On the other hand, I've seen ordinary people, not the smartest, not the most gifted, but tough, persistent, relentless, and they won because persistence beats talent. Persistence beats luck. Persistence beats everything. When I was building my projects, there were moments when everyone said, "It's over. Trump is finished. It can't be done." But I didn't stop. I stayed in the game. I pushed harder. And because I refused to quit, I turned what looked like failure into victory. That's the truth. The reason I built an empire wasn't because it was easy. It was because I never quit. Here's what most people don't understand. Success is not about how many times you fall. It's about how many times you get back up. The 98% fall once, twice, maybe 3 times, and they give up. The 2% fall 10 times, 20 times, 100 times, and they keep rising. That's why they win. And let me tell you something important. Quitting feels easy in the moment, but it costs you forever. Every time you quit, you lose confidence. You teach yourself to be weaker. You create a habit of failure. But every time you persist, every time you keep going when you want to stop, you build strength. You build resilience. You build the identity of a winner. That's why persistence is everything. Life will test you. Business will test you. Success will test you. You will face setbacks. You will face criticism. You will face rejection. But those tests are not meant to break you. They're meant to prove you. They're meant to see if you're serious. They're meant to separate the 98% who quit from the 2% who persist. And if you persist, if you refuse to quit, you will pass the test. You will rise. You will win. I want you to remember this. Success is always closer than it looks. Most people quit right before the breakthrough. They stop digging when they're just one strike away from gold. They stop running when the finish line is right around the corner. They stop fighting when victory is right there. Don't make that mistake. Don't quit when you're close. Keep going. Push harder. Persist. Because the moment you refuse to quit is the moment success has no choice but to come to you. Persistence is what keeps you moving when everything in you wants to stop. It's what makes you wake up early when you're exhausted. It's what makes you keep working when you've already failed 10 times. It's what makes you ignore the critics and stay focused on the goal. Persistence is the voice that says, one more step, one more day, one more try. And if you listen to that voice, if you keep going one more time, you will make it. So ask yourself, are you a quitter or are you a finisher? Are you in the 98% who stop when it's hard, or are you in the 2% who refuse to quit no matter what? Because your answer to that question will decide your future. Here's the truth. If you quit, you lose. If you persist, you win. It may take longer than you expected. It may be harder than you imagined. But if you don't quit, you cannot be defeated. Success always belongs to the ones who never quit. Always. So today, make that decision. Make it your identity. Say to yourself, I don't quit. I may fall, but I rise. I may fail, but I try again. I may struggle, but I keep going. I never quit. And if you live that way, nothing can stop you. That's the final lesson. That's the secret of the 2%. They never quit. They persist until they win. And if you do the same, you'll join them. You'll build your empire. You'll live your dream. You'll succeed. The 98% quit. The 2% don't. Which one are you?